Share this with everybody who hasn't made it. Good morning. This is video number 2, webinar number 2. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to start with a presentation of a 5-minute TED Talk I've been working on. I'm going to do it to illustrate how you're going to put your presentations together. I'm going to ask you to type any questions in the chat that come up for you as I am speaking or as things come up, because the last 25 minutes of today is going to be very interactive, where we're really taking things apart and I'm really getting to understand you, what you're trying to achieve, and how I can be best of service to help you achieve that. So let me begin. June 2017 was a time that changed my life. I found myself lying in a rice field in Bali, Indonesia, waiting to die. I had gone sightseeing. I had a taxi driver with me. I don't remember much about what happened, except that dying felt like losing my breath and not being able to catch it back. I woke up 5 days later in intensive care and discovered that I had collapsed with congestive heart failure. And at the foot of my bed was my taxi driver, sitting there watching over me like an angel. I'd gone through a separation and a divorce in 2015. I suffered from depression. I was overweight, and I had packed my suitcases and left New Zealand and traveled for almost 18 months, just free falling through the universe. I went to 14 countries, living out of my suitcase, going from country to country, completely lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. My children had grown up. I was no longer a mother, was no longer a wife, and I was trying to get my life together again. I was on antidepressants that didn't seem to help. For me, it felt like waking up every morning was like digging myself out of a grave with a teaspoon. The drugs suppressed all of my feelings. I couldn't feel anything. And what scared me the most is I stopped dreaming. I couldn't dream. I decided to go onto antidepressants because I did have a recurring dream while I was still with my ex-husband. And in that dream, I had committed suicide on my balcony. And my youngest son would come from school and see me dangling on the balcony. And the cord around my neck was the cord of my fluffy pink morning gown. When I had the third dream, I realized that my mind was taking me to very, very dark places. And that's when I made the decision to leave my husband. I thought I would rather be alive somewhere in the world and not leave that legacy for my children. So I packed my suitcases and I left. The lessons I learned from this experience was that this life is very, very short. We think we have a long time to be happy, to live healthy lives. We don't. Life is very, very fleeting. The other thing I realized was that all of the people that I had been supporting, my philanthropic efforts in Africa, women and children who relied on my fundraising to keep them alive, was not sustainable. I was a one-man band going around the world trying to do some good, and my passing would have let down a lot of people. I managed to kick out of that experience and get my life back on track. I thought to myself, how can I instill the ideas that I have to help women, empower women and children around the world, so that if anything ever happened to me again, all of the people who relied on me would not be let down. So I came up with an idea to start my own movement. It's called the Her Story Circle. And the Her Story Circle empowers women to come and share their stories, whether they're people who are in business, entrepreneurs, people like me who've experienced health and wellness challenges, women who've gone through rape, domestic violence, sexual molestation, all kinds of abuse, women who are spiritual, who could share their spiritualities and methodologies that can help other women. I thought, what about women who are creative, who can dance, who can sing, who can paint a picture? I decided that the women I wanted to connect with had to be tribal leaders, women who value their own stories, who value their life experiences, who would come and share these stories to uplift, inspire, motivate, energize, so that their story, my story, your story, can become the light at the end of the tunnel for another woman who's experiencing something similar. I launched in 2019 in July at my first conference in Las Vegas, USA. 100 women stepped up to share their stories. I went on and had a conference in Wellington, in New Zealand, Sydney, Australia. Beginning of 2020, I went to Norway, I went to London, I went to New York, and then COVID happened. 15 events had to be canceled for North America and Canada. I had paid for venues, I had paid for food. I was in a black financial hole at the beginning of 2020. And then all of my personal tragedies started to happen. On the 29th of March, my mother-in-law died in Poland of a heart attack, online while my husband and I were watching. His brother trying to resuscitate his mom, and none of the neighbors would come and help. 3 weeks later, my mother died in Zimbabwe. I couldn't go back home to Africa to bury my mother. So for 6 months, I had to stop. I went into my cave and I grieved. I got off social media. I stopped talking to people. I just had to be still. The day of my mother's funeral, I remembered a ritual. In Africa, when you lose someone close to you, to mark the passing of that person, you shave off all your hair. To be honest, I wanted to slash my wrists. I wanted something in the world to change. So I got a shaver and I shaved off all my hair. My husband woke up in the morning, he couldn't recognize me. There was a strange, bold woman lying on the bed next to him. When my siblings came online for my mother's funeral, my brother Zoomed us in and we were online for 17 hours. And my sister took one look at me and she started to laugh. She laughed so hard, she started crying. And I said to her, Patricia, why are you laughing? It's Mom's funeral. And she said to me, Getry, did you look at yourself in the mirror? I said, what are you talking about? She said, Getry, you look so much like Mom. She said, now every time you look in the mirror, Mom's going to be staring right back at you. You see, I look like my mother. People used to think we were sisters, and it was true. 6 months later, I woke up in a dream. And in this dream, I was brushing my teeth. I spat and I looked up into the mirror. And the person looking back at me wasn't me. It was my mom. And in this dream, my mother was laughing. She was vibrant. She was healthy. And she was laughing with the same hysteria my sister had laughed with on the day of her funeral. And she said to me, you see, baby, you see what I did? I made you look like me so that you will remember that I am in you, I am with you, and I have not gone anywhere. But you've got to get up. You've got to do your work. She said, so long as you are 6 feet above the ground, your job is not done. Wake up. And I tell you, I snapped out of my state of depression in a second. And I put my platform online. And I started having online conferences. And we are scaling faster now than I had ever imagined by doing in-person events. The timing of that decision has changed my business. There are so many people out there who are grieving, so many people out there who need to share their stories. And I've created a platform to allow them to do that. So if you are somebody who has a story and you feel your story is worth sharing, my message to you is get up. So long as you are 6 feet above the ground, share your story. Your story could be the light at the end of the tunnel for someone else. The second thing is, this life is fleeting. Right now with COVID, we are a breath away from affecting and infecting each other. They say that the richest places in the world are graveyards because they are full of people who had amazing ideas, wonderful stories, and they didn't have the courage to stand up and speak. Do not go to your grave with your story. Thank you. Okay, I'll ask you to all come online and we're going to start talking about your projects and your stories. First of all, I want you to give me some feedback on this presentation. Just unmute or wave your hand, come on camera so I can actually see who wants to participate. The reason why we're doing this is so that I can get feedback on my presentation. You're going to get opportunities to speak on TED, and sometimes it's not going to be the full 15 minutes. And as I coach and mentor people, you're going to learn how to do a 2-minute presentation, which is going to be the audition video that you present to TED. They say that if you can't impress people in 2 minutes, you can't do it in 5, you can't do it in 10, you can't do it in 15. So how can you condense your message to a 2-minute pitch first? When I coach you to speak, you then do a 5-minute presentation because there's going to be some TED platforms that don't have allowance for a full 15 minutes. So if you can say, I can present in 5 minutes, you can be very impactful. Some people say that it's very, very difficult to speak in 5 minutes. It's not that difficult. It's actually easier than 15 minutes because you don't waste time. You go straight to the point. You deliver exactly what you need to say. Some of the best speeches that I have seen that are 5 minutes long have got the most views. Remember, people's attention span online is not very good. Yeah. People will sit and listen to a good 5-minute presentation than a good 15-minute presentation from beginning to end. So that's something else to take into consideration. We'll then help you create a 10-minute presentation and then a 15-minute presentation. You have 18 minutes to speak on TED. However, I always coach people to work on a 13-minute presentation because what happens is, as you're speaking, you have to factor in the time to pause. to allow people to take in the information. If you're speaking in an audience where there's a live audience, if people laugh, you have to factor in the fact that they're laughing. Does that make sense? So if you create a presentation and you present for a full 15 minutes, you might run out of time. And what happens on TED is if you go over 18 minutes, your video doesn't see the light of day on the TED.com website. So even if you do a TEDx event and you're aiming to get on the TED.com website, if you go over 18 minutes, it doesn't get shown. So always underestimate the time. Work on 13 minutes because you'll probably hit 15 to 18 minutes instead. So we'll start off with feedback. And then this is now an opportunity for us to talk about your presentations and where you're at. Anyone, just put up your hand. You can put up a virtual hand as well by the reaction button if you don't want to come on video. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes,
Good. That was an amazing presentation. You are fabulously good at that. You had a story that it wasn't just you telling a story about how you were feeling on that rice field, like it all tied together and all fell into place at the end. And then it had this beautiful ending of creating an opportunity for others. So, I mean, that was brilliant. I don't have anything to improve on that, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. And that's the other thing about putting together your content. Sorry, before you jump in, when you put together your content, work on it in such a way that everything is connected and it loops back to the end. That the thing that you said in the beginning ties in with the thing that you're going to say at the very end. So I talked about my story about dying and how I almost died, and how it's important to share your story so you don't take your story to your grave. Does that make sense? Manuela, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Gertrude. I'm not sure, probably I wasn't the only one having to reach for the tissues. Well, what an amazing way to touch everyone's heart and soul. So thank you so much. Very, very inspiring and very moving. Just incredible. Thank you very much, Gertrude.
Thank you. They say that when you are presenting, you have to do two things. You have to make people feel something.
Yeah.
And when people feel something, you have to either make them cry or you have to make them laugh. There has to be some emotion that you invoke in people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And although my story is sad, it does have a positive spin to it. So you have to try and leave people feeling uplifted. Even if you are telling a sad story, don't leave them in a point of sadness. That's something else you have to remember with sad stories. Lift the mood of your presentation so it ends on a strong and positive note. Malaika, you said you've put in a comment. Thank you. You said that I've heard it because I've heard it before and it still makes me look inward. It was about you, but it isn't at all. You're right. So you remember last week, if you didn't watch last week's video, I talked about who is the hero of your story. I'm not the hero of the story. You, my listeners, are the heroes. I'm the wise sage. I'm the person who's experienced something. I'm the Yoda. I'm here to say, this is what I've done and this is what you can do. So unless someone can see themselves in your story, they can't go and implement what you've been trying to teach. So you're showing up not as the hero of the story. You have to make your listener the hero of their own story so that they can own it and they can come online and share the same thing. So now if you want to talk about your specific presentations and how we can unpack them and how you can put them together, I shared some videos with you, Mikhail, last week and your wife about how to do a presentation when there's two of you presenting together. Did you manage to watch those videos?
No, I'm really sorry I haven't responded to that. My apologies. It's on my list straight after this. I got the email and I will be watching those. Unfortunately, my wife have had to go away. Her mother's really sick and she might be away for a while. Her mother is possibly dying. So,
sorry to hear that.
So yeah, I really appreciate you sending that and I will be watching it. And I would love these recordings, like you said, you were going to make them available. So
Yes.
my wife can watch because there was some stuff last week that was just brilliant. And I really want her to see that. And the stuff today that's brilliant. I really want her to see that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So what I've done is I've created a group. I'm taking my community off Facebook. I'm doing it for a very specific reason. Facebook is now throttling any messages you post, even in your own private Facebook group. I used to notice if I posted something, that group has got about 1,700 people. I would get about 200, 300 responses. Now, if I get 20 responses, I'm lucky. So Facebook is forcing you to pay. You have to boost your post for your community to hear you. So I've created a group called in Mighty Networks. I'm going to be teaching all of you how to create your own followings, how to create your own tribes through Mighty Networks as well. It's important for you to grow your own community where you have total control. That's why I'm moving you off Facebook. So if I haven't added you, I will send you an invite to join us on Mighty Networks. You have more control. You can run your courses, your webinars through it. It's a fantastic platform. My business coach actually recommended that I move everybody away from Facebook. The other thing that's happening with Facebook, as you can see, it's not in a very good place as a business. And a lot of people have created their entire businesses around Facebook. It's time for people to really think smart. And something not so good is happening to Facebook. So just think about that in terms of your business as well. Anything else? We've got Buhle, we've got Gorata in Botswana on the call. Malika, you are in the United States. So this series of the 3 free webinars is a way for me to show people how I help them in putting together their presentations, how I help my clients when they come onto my coaching programs. So I have the 3 packages that I offer. One is going to be a video course, which is self-paced. You do it on your own. The second, I coach you in a group with 10 other people. And the third is my one-to-one coaching. The one-to-one coaching is for those people who want to create a 7-8-figure business through their speaking, where I show you exactly how I've done it for myself. We aim with targets. We aim with you saying, I want to make $1 million in the first year, and I'll show you how to do it. In the second one, you meet me only 2 times a month, so every fortnight, but you can email me with questions every single week. So you meet me for an hour with a group of 10 other people. I do respond with video emails. So it's very personalized. It's like I'm talking to every single person. The one-to-many coaching model is really good in that it helps you not exchange your hours for dollars. So if I have 10 people who are paying me $7,500 for that 6-month program, I'm giving away 20 hours of my time every single month to a group, as opposed to one-on-one. So there's something about the one-to-many coaching that can really help you leverage your time. I'm now wanting to work with people who are really serious about their coaching businesses, their speaking businesses, and that's what I do with my Clear Path coaching business model. So this is a series of 3 webinars that are free that I'm giving to people. So you get an essence of how I teach, an essence of how I coach and mentor people. So for the last 5 minutes, anything else that has come up for you, anything that I can help you with right now in terms of putting together your speech? No?
No, not so much around the speaking, but more around the platforms. So the Her Circle platform that we are on now, not the Zoom, but how we got onto this, is that the Mighty Networks? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. Mighty Networks is the platform.
Fantastic.
And I will send you my affiliate link, because there is a way that you can make money referring other people to Mighty Networks as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
And
what I like about
also,
Mighty Networks is, you know how when you create a video course, they have all of that in the back end. So like I said to you, this week I'm launching what you've paid for, Mikhail, and Manuel, you are on the paid version. I'm going to have a membership where people come in for free. They'll get all of these free webinars just to get an essence of who I am, how I teach, and they understand how I'm helping people. Then I have the people who've paid the 447 and the 997. That is one course that I'm going to be putting out. Then I'll have the people who are going to do the one-on-one. So there's a membership platform attached to Mighty Networks as well. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to get, to pay for like Teachable, all of these teaching platforms where you can put out a video course or a webinar course. It's all on Mighty Networks already.
fantastic.
It's an incredible platform.
And I noticed you you sent me in it a form to fill in about speaking, where it's like to get some information where I'm at as a speaker.
Yes.
I'm going to ask, like, the problem I have with that is that my level of speaking experience is quite extensive. My wife's is not, and we're doing this together. So do you want us to answer that form for us together or individually?
I would do it separately.
Okay.
I would do it separately, then I can get a feel roughly where she's at. Because what I'm trying to do again is to meet people where they're at and not make assumptions. That's why I get everybody to fill out that form.
Perfect.
And again, it's something I recommend you do with your own clients. Where are you at? Like, you're doing the relationships coaching. Where do you think you're at with your relationships? It really gives you an essence, and you don't make assumptions about people before you start working with them. And the other reason why I ask in terms of their business, are you in your first year, your second year? With you, Mikhail, you can say, how long have you been married? How long have you been in a relationship? It gives you an essence of exactly where you're positioning people.
Yes, I just created people can apply to get coaching from us, and I use JotForm.
Okay.
And there we ask basic questions and that, which I use for my own business as well. So
okay.
So what do you use for your questions? Like your
So I'm just using a Google Doc.
Okay.
Doc Forms is a good one, but I use Google Doc.
Okay.
Fantastic. So that's the end of today's webinar. There's a couple of questions. I noticed that dates make an impact. What if I don't remember the exact dates? Is it possible? Sorry, where are you? Is it possible to make impact without exact dates? Yeah, it is. Dates aren't that important. I couldn't even remember the day that I collapsed in June. That's why I said June 2017. So you don't have to be very specific. What's the best way to get speaking engagements? You get speaking engagements by speaking. People who hire people to speak want to see you speaking. I can't reiterate this enough. Look for free speaking opportunities. Come onto platforms like ours where you pay a minimum of $97 and you get to speak. You have to create a library of videos online so people see you in action. Nobody's going to hire you unless they see what you can do. And they want to see multiples of this. They want to see you being an authority in your subject matter. Okay, so I have to say this is going to be the end of our second video. Next one is next week. If you have questions, anything specific you want me to address in the last one, email them to me, then I can tailor that last webinar based on your needs. Thank you so much, everybody. I will share this video. Bye
Thank you
for
very
now.
much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Malaika. Bye.